Canada is a good place to invest for the Russian companies, at least for three reasons. One, this country is predictable politically and socially. Secondly, it has a transparent financial system that operates traditionally in the traditional way, but very smoothly. And thirdly, it has both financial and logistical infrastructure that makes the investment attractive. For these three reasons, Canada can be potentially a good place to invest by the Russian companies. Obviously, there are some limitations. Unlike other countries, for instance, Chinese or Indians, Russia is not able to send their own workers, specialists that will be working in the new investments. Russia is short of the manpower herself. But at the same time, Russia can work in the several areas that are very work intensive and does not require a huge number of labor force. And here are those areas. IT. Canada is opening more for the foreign investors in the area of telecommunication. We need it badly. We need much more competition. So Russian professionals in this area would do quite well. Second area is the nanotechnology and the biotechnology and nanotechnology, and Russian brain would be absolutely crucial to establish such companies and work with the Canadians in this area quite successfully. Third area is the space industry, where Canada is inspiring to play some role in recent years, and Russia has a most tremendous and experience in this area. So joining forces would be quite interesting. Probably fourth area is the market that is very hard to enter, but could be potentially very lucrative. It's the medicine and drug industry, which is again very much controlled and hard to open. But Russia already have a very good experience in their own generating drugs and producing quite a unique medicine that can be introduced to the North American market via Canada. In sum, I believe that those areas, new technologies, IT, space, and medicine, could be potentially very lucrative for the Russian investors here. And they can also count on the quite a good legal and financial infrastructure that Canada can propose, and stability, which is in the current situation probably the biggest argument in favor of choosing Canada. Unfortunately, Canadian-Russian relations means Russia's investment in Canada are very small, probably because of the lack of proper information from the Canadian side. We are coming back to the issue of how Canada promotes our relations and what Canada can do better in promoting relations with Russia. And here is not only the issue of private investors, but also the issue is the government that is not yet up to the task in promoting Canadian interests in Russia as strongly as private business would like to see it. It is the traditional mantra of both the Russian and foreign companies to say that there is a tremendous potential in the Russian economy, that the Russian economy has a lot of unexplored opportunities for investment. At the same time, I see that for the last almost 20 years, everyone is saying that in this area, in the sense of the climate for foreign investment, the climate shall be improved. So if someone is saying for 20 years that they are a good potential, at the same time the climate of investment is still not there, means that we have a systemic problem, that we should deal with the systemic issue, not just the adjustment of the few laws, an adjustment of the certain relation between the corporate world and the politics. So that's one point. The second point is that potential is not enough for the real investment. And unless we will see that the Russians themselves are investing heavily in their own economy, then obviously it sends the very wrong signal for the foreign investors. If the last year Russian outflow of the private capital was almost the same as the inflow of the foreign capital to Russia, it sends quite a worrisome signal to all investors who would like to do investment in Russia. This is the warning signal, but also there are very good examples of how to do it. One of my colleagues during the business meeting on the Russian economy told the audience that doing business in Russia is lousy, but making money in Russia is fantastic. This is probably the summary of what is the real investment climate in Russia, as seen from the medium-sized entrepreneur as he was. The third point is that if we put aside those kind of the emotional approach to Russian economy, the picture is not as bad. Quite the opposite. Russia has everything what is the dream, except of the investment climate, has everything what is the dream for the foreign investors. Resources, educated workforce. That's exactly what we, and a quite good spirit of entrepreneurship, particularly among the younger generation. So Russia has everything what is needed, and on top of this, during the last 15 years, particularly in mid-1990s and until around 2004, 2006, Russian economy suffered a dramatic deindustrialization, and sooner or later the industrial policies should become a new dominant policy for the Russian government, and therefore it will be a new push for the foreign investments in the area of construction, machinery, and so on and so forth, even in the area of management skills. So the opportunities are obviously there. Russian economy, and that's point number 4, Russian economy is slowing down. It slows because of the general slowdown in the global economy, and Russia is here not too much different. But still, this is some growth, not maybe as high as the Russian government expected even a year ago, but still, by comparison to the almost recessional growth in Europe and the very slow growth in United States, Russia looks as a very decent economic partner. So, to summarize those 4 points, it's enough to say that the Russian economy, if run efficiently, is in the quite a good shape, better shape that many economies dependency on gas and oil, but at the same time gas and oil is the Russian advantage, and obviously should be explored even further in order to secure the transfer of funds to the, for instance, industrialization or transportation networks towards the Siberia and so on and so forth. Many infrastructural projects that Russia is almost ready to go. To me, it's quite a clear picture at the moment, at least, that the smaller Canadian companies and the medium-sized Canadian companies are not yet investing in Russia. This is a lost potential. They are afraid, they do not have know-how, they do not have contacts, they don't know how to be protected, and so on and so forth. And for them to pay for the extensive legal advice and extensive management advice is too costly. That is why so far we see rather big Canadian companies investing in Russia, and those big companies who carefully planned their moves and invested a lot of resources into the start of the projects, at the beginning of the projects, they can be seen as very successful. Key examples, Kinross Gold, the biggest Canadian investor in Russia, Bombardier, the third company is Magna, obviously Magna Enterprise that invest in the car spare parts. Those three companies, there are Canadian flagship companies, and they are doing quite successful, not without the problems. They have constant issues with the Russian bureaucracy. So the life for them is, despite their success, is not so easy as we can imagine. And probably this experience is two different kinds of experiences. Big company versus small and medium-sized company shapes the image of the investment in Russia. And the image is on the Canadian side, that for the big company with the big resources, they can go to Russia and find their way. For the smaller and medium size, they will be not able to go through the bureaucratic web, and they will be entangled in endless bureaucratic hassles. And probably this picture is unfortunately true. It is true that those companies who are doing well, they have a big investment in the legal and professional infrastructure. So that's so far the unfortunate picture is that medium-sized companies will rather stay away from Russia unless something will be changed, and what can be changed is, first of all, different political environment between Russian and Canadian government. Canadian and Russian relations will be smoother than they are at the moment on the economic side. There are a good signs. We had a visit of Minister of Trade at FAST in 2012. It went very well. So both governments are engaged in economic type conversations. So there are positive signals, but it did not reach the point of the smooth collaboration and cooperation. It's still the feeling that for Canada, some other regions, even in BRIC countries like Brazil or China, have much more weight than Russia. So Canadian companies' interest in Russia, I believe,